Three, two, one, and we're back. Taylor, welcome to the show.
Awesome. Thanks for having me, Nick. Excited to be here.
Yeah, today we're going to be talking about workflow platforms, security, and a lot of stuff that I think a lot of insurance companies, carriers, agencies, problems that they run into that we're going to solve. And we're with Taylor Pascoe of ShareFile. Taylor, we start all of these conversations by allowing our guests an elevator pitch. Taylor Pascoe, who are you? What is it that you do?
All right. So I'm Taylor. I have been with ShareFile for almost 10 years, almost a decade now. Part of that tenure has been split between Citrix and ShareFile. A lot of people know that ShareFile was a part of that. But it's been a really interesting journey. ShareFile's been around for 20 years. It's got a huge presence across all marketplaces globally, across all industries. And what's been really amazing to see over the last 10 years is that evolution from a customer standpoint, a platform, how our world has changed, even in just the last 4 years, last 5 years. But really, when it started in its inception, it was that file sync and share platform. Like you remember the days when you had to email yourself a file
Yep.
because you needed to access it later on another device? Like, how archaic does that sound now? Hopefully, people still aren't doing that. But that was really like the inception, just simple, basic file sync and share for when you were on the go needing to access a file on a different device. But now it's really evolved to a workflow platform, still providing the foundational uh, file sharing and security needs, but really evolving to delivering a much more modern approach to collaboration, customizing client portals, and ultimately delivering that client experience that they've like, this is what our clients have now come to expect. So the productivity, a lot of those enhancements around getting our work done faster, uh, has all really just come to light over the last few years. So it's been really cool to be a part of the journey.
Yeah, and you're the insurance element of ShareFile. And when we first connected, I think I shared with you this story. I'd like to share it with the audience because it does lead very much into why we're having this particular conversation, which is, I'm a two-time co-founder, and we would run into issues. You said you hoped that they're still not emailing files to themselves. I can assure you they are. And even with the best of intentions, companies that we had similar issues, right? Similar issues around where is the file being stored? What is the latest version of
Mm-hmm.
of this file, right? Being able to make the appropriate collaborative effort. You got multiple people working on the same file. How are those changes being made? But even more importantly, security, right? We would have contracts, we would have files, documents that were being sent by email, by text
Mm-hmm.
message, right? Like completely vulnerable to this. And when you and I first had that discussion, I was like, ooh, I need to try this, right? And finally, like it does need to be in a platform kind of um formats, right? In order to get the appropriate security. So look, I want to talk about those pain points because and I'm gonna abstract a little bit because ShareFile has made like massive inroads with accounting and legal, where you would see like, oh yeah, there are real security concerns. But I think where we connected the dots was insurance has the very similar ones. Can you talk specifically about the pain points in that workflow around what we're discussing? Because I can assure you, we in the
Mm-hmm.
insurance side, we are still executing on those bad practices.
Right. And I mean, I think you're talking about something that's resonating across all
Mm.
industries. How do I get my work done faster? How do I, keep my employees productive? How do I keep them happy so that I can retain my employees, giving them easy solutions to use, and all at the same time maintaining best in class security practices because we know from the productivity side and from a pain point side, I think about it in a couple of different buckets. So the first thing is bringing on new clients, new customers. This is, a goal that every CEO has. It's a part of their 2025 initiatives. And how easy is it to onboard those new customers and those new clients? So that's kind of like the bucket number one. It's a big initiative, and
Yeah.
how easy can I make that first interaction that this client has with my company easy, painless, collection of documents and data, seamless? How easy can I make that experience? And then the second thing is once I do have them on, and once I'm starting to collect their data, how do I maintain it securely? How do I, when I need to do routine things like filing a claim, how do we make this as seamless as possible from point A, point B, point C, and so on? And so that we finish the whole processing process as that leads to revenue and then the ability to hopefully onboard even more clients to go through the same process. And so when I think of pain points, I think of those two buckets, client onboarding. It's like as a consumer, if you're going to, I'm going to go find new home insurance. It's actually something we're doing right now. We're making a move in the next month. When I'm talking to all of these different insurance agencies, like the first impression is everything. Like the first, my first interaction with them and how easy and quickly it is for me to get my data over to them, digital, in a really secure way. That's that's everything to me. And, regardless of how competitive they are in the marketplace, I'm probably not going to waste my time with them for very long if they're not providing me with, as a consumer, with an easy method of getting my data and becoming a new client easily. So I think of that bucket and I think of some of those pain points. I think that, that's the same across the board for legal, insurance, accounting. It's something that they're all looking to do. And when we think about with ShareFile, streamlining those operations, think about like with the secure policyholder portals, providing like that one single place to go to access that information, automating those processes, improving the experience for the employees and the policyholders, and then all in all, achieving the legality and compliance that goes behind it.
I'm just thinking of like actual examples like that I'm going through today where the email chain, the email thread
Mm-hmm.
for a single email is so long, I can't even navigate my way through that. So I'm thinking of an insurance agency or brokerage, right, that is now using email because that still is the predominant form of communication, using email. One, here are applications, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or here's a link to applications. Okay. So you digitized it a little bit. But then there's a back and forth, and the email thread gets larger and larger. And next thing you know, it's like, where's that application? Where's that signed application? Where's
Right.
the auto ID card? Right. And so not only is it poor security, I think of it from the employee's perspective, when something goes wrong, it is untangling a tangled ball of yarn trying to do that. And you can imagine like trying to undo that, like the stress of that. That has to be a major pain point. Like it seems like for ShareFile, for the accounting fields and the legal fields, like they've probably encountered this so much sooner, but the insurance industry is now coming along. Email to me is sinful almost in every possible way. Security, workflow, you cannot be collaborative. Can you imagine now? Put yourself in the client's shoes. The client has to navigate through that thread to try to find things. It's sloppy, and it's a horrible position for them to be in. Can we talk a little bit about the platform itself? Because the components that by necessity have to be here. What's in the
Mm-hmm.
platform, right? Like what needs to be in there? I'm talking about Taylor. We can't do this by email. Okay, Taylor, ShareFile. What is in there so we don't have to do this by email?
Sure. So I completely agree. I can picture the long email threads and trying to find an attachment and trying to reference something. And you're talking a lot about the client experience of that. Imagine the employee side of that too. They're
Yeah,
also on
terrible.
the other side going through this email thread with 50 other customers and trying to find that one little thing. So I think that number one, when we think of the platform, one of the things that ShareFile has always rooted itself is the client experience. And one part of that starts with customized branding. So when we think of a portal, sometimes we think of like, oh, well, this is, is it going to look like mine? Is it going to look like, my company's website? Or my customers going to recognize when they go to this platform that this is, they can see it's very familiar. And so the first thing is that the ability to customize the client portal, make it as unique and very much customized to that customer's website and things like that, the
Hmm.
branding, the colors, and things like that. I think that automatically brings a lot of personalization to the process. And then the second thing is uh, making it as simple and easy as possible. Um, you know, the other part of the portal experience is that some people are like, oh, this means I have another password. This means I have another login to remember I already have 50. Like I have to go generate another account. And sometimes that might be true, but doing things like, can we just give access on things like first name, last name, email? Or can we simplify this login process to where maybe they create one and it's one and done, and that's the last time they'll ever do it. So making the process for getting in as seamless as possible, and making it so that every other time that they're doing that, it's very easy and recognizable. And then last thing, heading again on that simplification part is uh, making sure that they're only seeing what they really absolutely need to see. It's like this is my folder. I know exactly what I need to upload, my policy documents, maybe my financial information. I know exactly what's there. I am seeing only what I need to see. And I'm also getting some checks and balances on the other side to when I'm complete, like I'm getting some notifications behind it. My task is done. And I know that the person on the other side has what they need from me. But Nick, you bring up a really good point about email, but I'm going to turn that around too for a second, because I think that there are some things that maybe they are designed to be in email and it is kind of like a one-off thing.
Hmm.
So having the ability to have a really simple plugin to live in your email if you absolutely want to without venturing out to a portal, is also something that we have customized as well for things like Gmail, Outlook, and the most common email platforms. So I think simplicity, security, and then some of those permissions to make it so that you can see only what you want to see and you know exactly the documents that need to be in there to know that your job is complete.
Yeah. So let's build this, right? I think there are some forward thinking agencies and brokerages that would completely buy into everything that you just said. I want it to have a look and feel like it's ours, and but they end up building it. They're going to require a storage area, got to store documents, right? Store information, the policies, claim information. You need storage. You need a signature tool as well. You need a notification element. You need some sort of communicative element on that.
Mm-hmm.
And a problem that I see, and I know some agencies that are actually executing on this, a problem that I see is that one, they have to build it themselves. And these are all disparate tools. Rarely will you, this is one of the first tools that I've seen that we've experimented with where it's like, it's all in one, right? Um, so that's a big element of it. But I think another element of it is that if you build it, you own it, right? Which
Mm-hmm.
means the bugs, the upgrades, you have to evolve with it. talk a little bit like you've ShareFile has been around for 20 years. Talk about the a little bit about the evolution. Like you've already sort of gave a glimpse of what 2025 might look like a little bit, but the team behind the team, the benefit of having a third party build the whole element
Hmm.
of it creates a ton of efficiency, doesn't it?
Sure. And I think it's important for companies to weigh both options. They're coming to that point where, like, man, we need something customized for us. It needs to work for us. We have a niche. We have very unique processes. We have, our clients are unique in the way that we do business. And so I understand sort of how they reach that point where they're saying, this is what we need to do. We need to build it. But, I think that, and Nick, I think you were alluding to this theme of consolidation. Building a tool means managing it,
Yep.
maintaining it, security vulnerabilities, it's on you. There's so many things that go into it. And I think that from a consolidation standpoint, a lot of what we're seeing is that companies are looking to consolidate vendors as much as possible. Like there's hundreds of thousands of solutions out there that can do very specific things. Like you can go and find anything to accomplish that task. But when you can find a solution, and by the way, I don't think that there's a solution out there that can truly do 100% of everything, but I think that we can get really, really close with certain things. I think that we can, when you look at ShareFile as a platform, one of the things that we have had in mind is let's be the one place that you go to accomplish these three or four things. Uh, you're already working with documents. Why not get them signed here too? Those two processes sort of, they already
Yeah.
naturally go together. Why don't we store them here too? Um, when it comes to, think about like repeatable processes, like it needs to go out to this client after it gets approved by the client, and then it needs to go to this person internally. And then after that person internally approves it, it needs to go here. Kind of like these if then statements. Like, what if we were able to have a task, an approvals task, where all of that could also be accomplished from a collaboration standpoint? So, those three things that amounts to, hours of my time
Yeah.
at work.
And version control.
Version
So
control. Hmm.
naturally, so I love the way that you kind of put that together. Like documents and signatures go together. Documents and version control is a massive
Hmm.
pain point. I gave you
Hmm.
my personal example of either contracts or underwriting elements where it's like, who's got the latest version of this thing? And it gets nasty to
Right.
try to fix.
Yes. Nightmare. Complete nightmare. And then it's going to screw up the process from, when we get to the very end of it and then we have to start over. I'm delaying processes. Clients are getting frustrated. It can be a really big mess. I think that in that same umbrella, I would also throw in like there's a lot of unauthorized sharing of data. Like this person wasn't supposed to have access to that file. We have five different places where somehow this file is living. Why is it not in one place with just these two people that are supposed
Yeah.
to be accessing it? So that visibility and, visibility into user access and behaviors and things like that. I think that's all really important too.
And then Taylor, there's that other aspect of someone has appropriate access,
Hmm.
and then you need to remove the access element. And I was telling you this story before about like how 10 years removed, I still have access to things I probably shouldn't have access to, right? Because it was, didn't cross someone's mind. They have to go into something and like cut me out,
Right.
kind of thing. So having that sort of appropriate security control as well, I think is huge.
Yeah, absolutely. Like it's standard protocol that hopefully a lot of organizations have in place is when you're leaving a company, when you're being offboarded, there's a set of tasks that take place during that process. But think of like a very simple thing. Like most organizations, I would say 90% have Active Directory set up across the organization. They have different groups of users that are in that Active Directory, and so like a very simple example. of somebody leaving the organization. We all hope that they leave on good terms, but we want to make sure that they're not taking proprietary information with them. And so having the ability, like to within ShareFile, for example, from a security approach and best practice, we have the ability to you remove that user from Active Directory, then they're automatically taken out from ShareFile as well. So it's like no extra steps are taken, and that admin, that administrator doesn't have to stress about what access does this user have,
Yeah.
one step to solve that issue.
Yeah. We have brought up security so many different times, and I'm not sure if the audience is familiar with like the different degrees of security, right? And we keep
Mm-hmm.
hearing things like SOC 2 and things like that. Can you talk about the different degrees of security? Security goes beyond just like someone was, had access, now is not supposed to, and we forgot to remove their name. There can be
Right.
bigger degrees of lack of security that can fester into what we talked about. Someone your systems get hacked, and now personal
Mm-hmm.
information is gone and lost and in the hands of the dark web or whatever. Can you talk about different layers of security and where in ShareFile's kind of philosophy on security?
Absolutely. So first and foremost, ShareFile was built with security in mind, first and foremost. You know, every new feature, every new function of the platform is built with that in mind, and it is at the forefront of our platform. And so a few of those things, just to kind of expand on a little bit more, we talk about things like encryption at rest and during transfer, secure uploads and downloads, scanning for malware. Some we talk about going back to consolidation. Sometimes that's a separate tool that a lot of organizations have, and sometimes that's necessary. But within ShareFile and within the data that's getting transferred, that's a standard practice. I think that, Nick, one of the things you were talking about with users leaving the organization and accessing files and things like that, a lot of that visibility, some of the reporting within ShareFile is very robust with things like that. So being able to have the visibility and controls into, I want to run an access report as an administrator to understand who's accessing files from where. Is there anything suspicious going on with that? Secure user access, granular permission controls within the folder structure. Those are just some really those are some high level examples. Threat remediation is actually a newer security functionality that we have as well. Kind of makes it a little bit more of a proactive approach to some of that. But I would also add to that, what's interesting about your point, Nick, is that, and also for the audience that's listening, is that we have two different parties here. We have end users, the employees in the organization, and we just want to get our work done. We just want to
Mm-hmm.
be productive with whatever means possible. However quickly I can get this task done is the method that I'm going to use to do it. And then we have our other party, which is our IT, our security, our compliance, and administrators who really care about other things, not the fastest way to get it done, not the sleekest tool that you like as an end user. They care about security. Bottom line, that's it. And so being able to satisfy both of those worlds in the collaboration space is really, really unique. And with ShareFile, we have the ability to say that we can satisfy what our end users are looking to do, getting their work done as quickly as possible, productivity, collaborating really quick internally with end users and with their clients, and then also meeting some of these basic standard compliance things like HIPAA compliance, like with
Mm.
FINRA compliance. There's a lot of heavy work that goes into maintaining some of those. There's so many complexities that are behind those things, but when we can give you that stamp of approval of you're using our application and we're vouching for this and giving you all the tools that you need to maintain HIPAA compliance, FINRA compliance, whatever it might be, that creates a lot of a lot of it basically kind of helps take those worries away on both sides of the equation.
Well, there's more to that. You guys are experts at this. You guys have probably like a group of people who not only are familiar with the current compliance, you brought up FINRA, HIPAA, there's a whole bunch there, but have an eye on future compliance
Hmm.
around those, but have to follow federal, state, local, maybe even international jurisdictions around what do they want, and are probably more savvy around being able to see new regulations and saying, okay, now we need to translate this so that it can
Hmm.
get coded and engineered into the software. And I worry about agencies and brokerages that decide, well, we can do this, right? Now they have to become compliance experts around
Right.
outside. And what I worry about is they're spending so much time becoming compliance experts, they're not selling
Hmm.
insurance.
Hmm.
That's an issue. Like you guys have dedicated teams that's all they think about. Compliance, security, and that's their mission, is to solve that. You know, I'm assuming those teams aren't small.
No, they're not. And I know that they all work very hard to make sure that we meet those standards and ask, can answer those questions from our customers. But, some examples, it's kind of like an insurance policy, right? It's kind of like
Yeah.
here, we are vouching for you. We are taking this on. And by working with us and by keeping your data with us, by transferring your data, and using our portal as your client portal, and you have to maintain that compliance. And it's not just, kind of like we're a FINRA compliant solution, we're a HIPAA compliant solution. It's, you know, things like entering a BAA. That's important for when it comes to HIPAA and when it comes to insurance agencies that are dealing with personal injury and things like that. They have to have a secure way to send out PII and PHI, and be able to maintain it in a secure way too. It's an expectation that all of our clients would have. And so, entering into a BAA, thinking about, when it comes to FINRA and providing what's called a letter of attestation. And it basically just means that we are the ones we are vouching for this. And this is the protection that we're providing here. And also, you kind of talked about like some in-house experts. One thing that we also want to make sure that we're providing as a service to our customers is bringing on those people and collaborating with our customers as they're, sometimes figuring out exactly what they need to have compliant, and just sort of advising and being more of a consultant for them as they're having to make those decisions during their evaluation.
Yeah. So thank you for that. I think we're going to have a dictionary at the end for all of those acronyms, so that people are. I think most of our audience are aware of most of those things, but I will do my best to define those as I'm going through the show notes and the transcript. But I thought that's a good way to end this conversation. Like, I thought it was very important to have you on as insurance nerds is engaged with ShareFile. Like, we're using that software, and that was the thing that immediately impressed me. That I thought, wow, I know a lot of agents and brokers who, one, probably don't are probably doing it in a very manual and painstaking way, like the way I did
Mhm.
when we first started my company, right? That thing. But I think there are forward-looking agencies and brokerages that, if you're listening and you consider yourself forward-looking, I worry for you, not your forward-looking element of it, but I worry that like you're spending too much time building things, right, and connecting disparate systems and not selling insurance. And I thought, let's get ShareFile on because I think this is going to be very useful. So Taylor, this was fantastic. I think this is a wave. We the internet's not that old, Taylor. the internet's as old as ShareFile, kind of, right? And so, but workflow has dramatically changed, and I think this
Right,
is another leap. Like we have all of these really great disparate tools that do those specific things, but not really anything that kind of ties a lot of that together. So I
right.
appreciate you so much coming on and talking. If people wanted to get in touch with you and or ShareFile, how would they do that?
Sure. So the best place, go to sharefile.com. There will be different ways that you can interact with our team there. We have a chat function. We also have some really great uh, industry breakdowns where you can go and you can click on insurance, you can click on accounting, you can click on legal. There's a handful of others on there that have customer stories, very specific examples with how they're interacting with ShareFile on a regular basis. And so I would encourage everybody to go there, sharefile.com. Um, and yes, thank you again for having me, Nick. I really enjoyed it.
Thanks, Taylor. Appreciate it.